Sun Tzu said in The Art of War to know your enemy. And one of the most important things to know about your enemy is where the hell they are. To help you figure that out, most modern games use some form of camera lock-on feature. But one of these lock-ons might as well stare you directly at the sun because using it makes the game harder than going blind. Today, I want to talk about the lock-on feature in Monster Hunter, why no one uses it, and why the issue might become a problem in Monster Hunter Wilds. As always, hit me with any corrections in the comments, and let's start with subscribing. Subscribing is when I've been slacking off on episode 4 of Slang Series because, Wilds is coming out this week. What even is the lock-on? Up until Monster Hunter World, Monster Hunter didn't have focus mode lock-on, the one that keeps the monster center screen. Now there wasn't no lock-on, as after Monster Hunter Tri, there was target camera, where you could press L to whiplash your hunter's neck to your selected monster, and before that you could do the same thing for the old school looking forward to the future camera. Both of these are actually still in the game now if you have your settings to allow them, and both are actually still used if you enjoy having them on. However, in the previous generation, Monster Hunter finally added constant camera locking, or focus mode camera as they call it, which works similar to any 3D boss combat game like Dark Souls or God of War or Craftopia, which allows you to set your camera to constantly point at a monster. Now, in almost all lock-on games, whether you use lock-on or not is generally a personal preference.
That's my opinion!
Maybe you like a close-up of boss feet, or maybe you would prefer to spend the fight staring at some flowers.
Look at the flowers.
But outside of specific fights, nothing about those lock-on mechanics outright make you not want to use them. However, that is not the case for Monster Hunter. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest, I forgot exactly why focus lock-on mode was so bad, so to help me jog my memory, I booted up World and played for a solid 2 hours without disabling lock-on. And oh boy, I remember why now. Reason 1. The lock-on system is kinda just bad. I'm not even talking about how it ties into game design or usability with this point. I'm talking purely implementation-wise. Monster Hunter Focus Lock-on somehow makes doing what you want to do harder. I can't really put my finger on what it is specifically. Maybe one of you has a good answer. But between the camera smoothing, the amount of zoom, and how it tries to keep the monster on screen, finding where the monster is not just hard, it's straight up nauseating. Even in a basic fight like Rathian, with the lock-on targeting center body, small head movements can turn your camera into an action movie, and big movements like flying turns your camera into an astronomy exhibit. Which leads into my next point. Reason 2. Harder to see attacks coming. Now, I was trying to figure out why I used lock-on for almost every fight in Elden Ring and Dark Souls, but never used it in World. And I think seeing and dodging attacks was a pretty key difference. When playing something like Elden Ring, it almost feels like 90-95% of the attacks are built with focus lock-on in mind. Attacks are either slightly easier to dodge with lock-on since it makes your dodge direction identical for each attack, or much easier to dodge with lock-on because, for example, the jump attack that like 90% of the Elden Ring cast has in their arsenal for some reason, you'll actually be able to see them during this trying time, making it trivial to dodge. On the other hand, in Monster Hunter, between tighter dodge windows, monster sizes, and different attack animations, there aren't very many moves that are easier to dodge with lock-on enabled. Most grounded moves, from a distance at least, are about the same either way, especially beams and fireballs, as this is probably where I'd have my camera anyway. However, flying moves suddenly become guessing games, for reasons like the thing you're locked onto and the thing you're dodging are often not the same part, which means you're suddenly thrown into situations where you have to play Where's Waldo with Rathian's tail. But I'd say the biggest problem is actually seeing things on the ground. There are tons of important things on the ground in Monster Hunter. Slinger ammo, items, pigs. Wait, what are you doing out here? Go back to camp. And most concerningly, attacks. There's multiple moves where the monster scribbles some lines on the ground and you have to just not stand on them. But it turns out I don't know where them is when my camera is fixated on the monster. And don't even get me started on flying ground move combos like Velkhana's circles, where if you're locked onto the head, the ground just pieces out, so you now have to dodge the ice cubes on vibes alone. Now, if all the problems were defensive issues, that would be bad enough, but this affects offense as well. Reason 3. Targeting parts. Another trait that separates Monster Hunter from your average boss fighter is part targeting. Now, before anyone says anything, part targeting and different hit zones exist in tons of games, like targeting Medeir's head in Dark Souls 3 because it does more damage, or hitting the white parts on the curse-rotted Greatwood because you're racist. However, in Monster Hunter, because of certain mechanics and doing damage, targeting parts, and oftentimes multiple parts, is a necessity in literally every fight. Maybe you're targeting the tail until it comes off, and then you target the head. Maybe you're targeting Brachy's slime spots, until finally targeting the head. Maybe you target Elatrine's forearms for elemental damage before eventually targeting the head. Okay, lot ahead on this list. But if you do lock onto the head, you run into a bunch of problems. Monsters move their heads a lot. If Velkhana so much as sneezes, all of a sudden your camera is going through a washing machine. Monsters that are flying with their head targeted become even harder to see, and if, God forbid, they fly above you, they become fucking invisible. And they don't even need to be Lucent Narga. Now, I don't want to say playing with focus lock-on is completely useless, as I know some folks who prefer it for some fights like Narga, and the blindfold runs use it. Well, most of them do, wink wink. But the fact that the best use case for lock-on are runs where you know, don't use your eyeballs, is not a good sign. So you might be asking, what's the problem? Just don't use focus lock-on. And you're right. That's been the current solution up till now. Aside from maybe a few specific fights, none of the fights require constant lock-on to dodge anything. So what's the problem? Well, that might change with Wilds. I've noticed there's a few moves now that are easier to dodge with lock-on. Ray Dao has an attack where he flies up off screen and hits you with a mean elbow drop, and not in the Valstrax way where he leaves to go do his taxes and come back, but in the Souls-like way where it would be really helpful if you could see him the whole time. And Arkfeld has his wing drag attack, which isn't the problem by itself, but using the move, he does the teleports behind you kid meme, throws a dart at a list of attacks to do, and gives you about 2 seconds to flip your camera around to look at him, figure out what move he's doing, and react accordingly. Now, focus lock-on would be great for both of these moves, but if you have it enabled for the other 95% of the fight, it's like giving a monkey control of your right stick. So, your current options are upping camera sensitivity, using target camera which can be wonky for something like fast flying attacks, or toggling lock-on for specific moves during a fight, each a little wonky in its own way. Either way, Wilds is going to be out by the time you watch this video, so we're going to find out just how many attacks would be nice to have lock-on for, hopefully not too many. Anyway, thanks for watching, and be warned guys, I'm going to be playing Wilds till my eyes roll back in my head this week, so I'll try my best to make videos while doing that, but I can't make any promises. Anyway, see y'all in the Forbidden Lands, good luck.